Have you ever heard of a place where secret tunnels run through entire cities, convents hide treasures, and gigantic pyramids have been buried for centuries without anyone noticing? Well, such a place exists, and its name is Puebla. At first glance, it might seem like just another Mexican state, famous for its colonial architecture and iconic mole poblano. But those who delve deeper into the history discover that Puebla is much more than beautiful churches and a smoking volcano. It is a veritable labyrinth of secrets, mysteries, and enigmas that challenge historians and explorers to this day. Imagine medieval manuscripts written in gold ink appearing out of nowhere, mummies discovered by accident, and even an airplane that simply vanished into thin air and was never found again. Now add to that tales of nuns supposedly hiding fortunes in convents and underground cities that nobody knows for sure who built them. Fiction? No. It all happened for real, and many questions remain unanswered. Today, Bello Mundo will take you on a journey through the mysteries of Puebla, exploring the most bizarre, frightening, and impressive stories of this state that seems to have come straight out of an adventure book. Number 1. Puebla's location and geography. Puebla lies right in the heart of Mexico, occupying the central eastern region of the country, surrounded by Veracruz, Hidalgo, Tlaxcala, Morelos, Guerrero, and Oaxaca. This state has a strategic position that has influenced its history since colonial times. The geography of this place holds breathtaking surprises. The territory combines fertile valleys, essential for agriculture, with mountainous areas that form part of the imposing Sierra Madre Oriental. But what really steals the show are the giants that dominate the horizon: the Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl volcanoes. The former, active and always spewing smoke, commands respect with its more than 5,000 meters in height, while the latter, often covered in snow, seems to be asleep. Legend has it that Popocatépetl was a warrior in love with Iztaccíhuatl, a princess. However, due to intrigues, the girl was deceived into believing that he had died in battle. In despair, she lost her life to sadness. When he returned and found out what had happened, he took her body to the top of the mountain and stayed by her side, protecting her with his eternal flame. Thus, according to tradition, the two became the volcanoes we see today, she, lying down and silent, and he, furious and always active. In territorial terms, Puebla is no slouch. With just over 34,000 square kilometers, the state is divided into several municipalities, and the capital, which bears the same name as Puebla, is famous for its colonial mansions, Talavera tiles, and that unforgettable mole poblano. For those who don't know, mole poblano is a thick sauce made from a combination of peppers, chocolate, spices, seeds, nuts, and dried fruit. But behind all this historical pomp, there are mysteries and curiosities that leave many people open-mouthed, which, of course, we'll get to know now. Number 2. The Secrets of the Pyramid of Cholula. If we're going to start with incredible places and curious monuments, let's talk about the Pyramid of Cholula. Many people have no idea, but it is the largest pyramid in the world by volume, surpassing even the Great Pyramid of Egypt. There's just one detail. It's camouflaged under a hill. When the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, they saw only an overgrown hill and decided to build a church on top. Little did they know that they were stepping on a colossal structure built by much older civilizations. This pyramid wasn't built all at once. It was expanded over the centuries, layer upon layer, until it reached approximately 450 meters wide and 66 meters high. And that's where it gets even more intriguing. During excavations, archaeologists found internal tunnels where they discovered traces of hidden temples, ceremonial altars, and even representations of the rain god, Tlaloc. The detail is that the more you dig, the more layers emerge, indicating that this pyramid was constantly being remodeled and expanded over the millennia. The icing on the cake came in 2017 after an earthquake shook Puebla. During the restorations, archaeologists from the National Institute of Anthropology and History, known by its acronym INAH, found a perfectly preserved adobe core dating from between 100 and 600 years after Christ. Now the question remains, how many other secrets are still buried under this hill disguised as a mountain? Number 3. The Huejotzingo mummies. While we're on the subject of pyramids, it's only right that we now enter the world of mummies. And when we talk about mummies, we immediately think of Egypt, golden sarcophagi, and embalming rituals. But, believe it or not, Puebla also has its own mummies, and the mystery behind them is just as intriguing as those of the pharaohs. They are in Huejotzingo, in a former Franciscan convent called San Miguel Arcangel, built around 1544. Inside the building, which has been transformed into a museum, there are naturally mummified bodies, which could be those of monks or other important people from the region, buried there centuries ago. The problem begins because these bodies were found in an excellent state of preservation, which raises questions. Were they embalmed? Was it the region's dry, cold climate? Nobody knows for sure. And of course, where there's a mummy, there's a ghost legend. Many visitors say they hear whispers, see shadows in the corridors, and feel strange presences. Those who are more skeptical say that this is pure tourist sensationalism. But there's no denying that the convent's atmosphere, with its ancient cloisters, narrow windows, and gloomy silence, creates the perfect setting for a horror story. If you're brave enough, you can see these mummies up close. The museum exhibits at least 5 bodies, including that of a child. It's worth remembering that Huejotzingo is also famous for its colorful carnival, with masks and traditional dances. So you can get a party vibe during the day, and maybe a bit of a spooky vibe at night. Number 4. Cantona, the missing super city. Now we leave Huejotzingo and head for one of Puebla's most inexplicable mysteries. Cantona, the walled city that has disappeared without leaving any clear trace as to who built it and why it was abandoned. Located an hour from the capital of Puebla, Cantona is an ancient Mesoamerican city that once housed around 80,000 inhabitants. The place impresses with its urban organization. There are hundreds of paved streets, thousands of patios, and more than 20 fields for playing pelota, that ritualistic sport practiced by pre-Columbian civilizations. And there's one more detail. The city was completely fortified. The walls and buildings were erected with stones fitted on top of each other, without any kind of mortar or cement to support them. Even so, they have stood the test of time and are still standing today. This alone makes Cantona one of the most incredible archaeological sites in Mexico. Now comes the big question: who built all this? And why did this civilization simply disappear? Archaeologists believe that Cantona reached its peak between the 600 and 900 years after Christ and controlled the main trade routes for obsidian, a volcanic stone used to make weapons, tools, and ornaments. The city was a major commercial and military center and functioned like a toll booth. Anyone passing through had to pay tribute. Everything seemed to be going well until, around the year 1050, the city was completely abandoned. Nobody knows for sure why. The hypotheses range from severe climatic changes to internal wars or invasions by rival tribes. The most intriguing thing is that the disappearance was so complete that when the Spanish arrived in Mexico, there were practically no more records of Cantona. It was as if the city had evaporated. It wasn't until centuries later that the ruins began to be rediscovered, and to this day, excavations continue to reveal new artifacts, such as ceramics, statues, and sophisticated tools for the time. But despite these discoveries, the biggest mystery still remains. Who really were the builders of Cantona? And why did they disappear without a trace? We may never know the answer. Number 5. The miraculous bell of Puebla Cathedral. If there's one iconic building in Puebla, it's the Metropolitan Cathedral, the one with the sky-high towers and airs of architectural grandeur that impress you straight away. It was built by leaps and bounds in the 1575th, and every part of it reflects different styles, one foot in the Renaissance, another in the Baroque, another in the Herrerian. But the craziest story is that of the largest bell, popularly known as Maria. Legend has it that this bell weighs around 8,000 kilos, and when the time came to climb the tower, which is approximately 70 meters high, the construction workers were desperate. How are we going to lift something so heavy without a crane? It was a huge mess and no one could find a solution. Until, one fine morning, the workers arrived and, guess what? The bell was already installed, shining in the belfry. The whole town was shocked. As many of the locals were very religious, the obvious conclusion was that angels had come down from heaven and performed this miracle in the dead of night. Hence Puebla's nickname, City of Angels. Now, if you're a skeptic, you'll assume that a large group of workers rolled up their sleeves at dawn so as not to attract attention and managed to do the lifting using ropes, levers, and other contraptions. But to this day, officially, the mystery remains, and the population continues to believe in the angelic feat that transformed the cathedral into a symbol of faith, art, and mystery. After all, who can prove otherwise? Number 6. The ancestral manuscripts of the Palafoxian Library. The Palafoxiana Library, right in the historic center of Puebla, is a place that everyone should visit. Founded in 1646, it is considered to be the oldest continuously operating library in the Americas. The collection amounts to more than 40,000 volumes, including very rare manuscripts, incunabula, which are books printed in the early days of the printing press, religious, scientific, and legal documents from other centuries. But among these historical literary finds, there is something that makes even historians' hair stand on end. Amid religious treatises, colonial chronicles, and scientific reports, mysterious manuscripts have emerged, some of them written in gold ink, in archaic Latin or unknown dialects. Others date back to medieval times and tell of pirates, enigmatic maps, and even stories of missing expeditions. How did these documents end up here? Who brought them? And the most curious thing, could there be more of these treasures hidden among the shelves, waiting to be discovered? The cataloging process is still far from complete, and many believe that the Palafoxiana hides texts that could rewrite parts of Mexican and even world history. But for now, the mystery remains, and the secrets continue to be kept between pages yellowed by time. Number 7. The Convent of Santa Monica and its Forgotten Treasure. If there's one place that smells of mystery in Puebla, it's the Convent of Santa Monica. During the 18th century, while convents were closed and religious orders persecuted, some nuns decided to hide in underground passages, living in total seclusion to continue their spiritual practices. The convent was one such refuge. But the most enigmatic part of this story involves a missing treasure. In the mid-19th century, when the liberal troops took Puebla, a rumor began to circulate that there was a fortune hidden inside the convent. According to the rumors, there were around 2,500 ounces of gold, guarded by nuns who feared that the treasure would be looted. The problem? No one has ever found anything. Some say the gold was secretly transported to another convent. Others believe it was hidden in underground tunnels. And there are those who argue that there never was any treasure, just a distraction to protect something even more valuable. What is known is that, over the years, various explorers have scoured the convent's tunnels in search of the lost gold. But to this day, nothing has been found. Was it all just a rumor? Or is there still a forgotten vault in the depths of Puebla, waiting to be discovered? Number 8. The disappearance of the Quatro Vientos plane. In 1933, an inexplicable event shook the world of aviation: the disappearance of the Quatro Vientos plane. Two Spanish pilots, Mariano Barberan and Joaquin Collar, had crossed the Atlantic on a historic journey from Seville to Cuba. After a quick refueling, they set off for Mexico and were never seen again. The last communication from the Quatro Vientos came when they were flying over the state of Puebla. After that, absolute silence. The search began immediately. Theories abounded. Some believed the plane crashed in a remote area between Puebla and Oaxaca. Others thought it was shot down by a storm. Some even said that the pilots were carrying treasure and were murdered by locals. But the truth is that, to this day, nothing has been found. No wreckage, no clues, no evidence of what happened to the aircraft and its crew. The Quatro Vientos simply vanished into thin air, and the case remains one of aviation's greatest mysteries. Number 9. Archaeological discoveries in Huejotzingo. Can you imagine digging a hole in your backyard and suddenly finding ceramics from 2,000 years ago? That's exactly what happened in Huejotzingo, a municipality in Puebla. Farmers were preparing the soil for planting when they stumbled across ancient objects, and when they called in experts from the National Institute of Anthropology and History, the surprise was greater than anyone could have imagined. When they dug deeper, they found evidence of a civilization that may have existed even before the great empires like the Aztecs. We're talking about a culture so ancient that it still has no definite name. The archaeologists found the remains of stone structures, ceremonial pots, and even obsidian tools. The problem? The site is still being studied and research is moving slowly. In other words, the history of these people may remain hidden for years to come. Number 10. The secret tunnels that hide stories. Now imagine walking through Puebla and knowing that, right beneath your feet, there is a network of tunnels stretching for kilometers. Discovered by chance during excavation work, these underground corridors seem straight out of a conspiracy book. Built between the 16th and 17th centuries, these tunnels would have been used as escape routes in times of war, secret passages for persecuted priests, or even hidden routes for the transportation of treasures and valuable documents. But here comes the most frightening detail. There are reports that during the excavations, gunshot marks were found, the remains of old clashes, and even objects that seem to have been hastily abandoned. This raises several questions. What exactly happened in these underground passages, and why have they been forgotten for so long? As if that weren't enough, some people swear that these tunnels are haunted. Reports of whispers, shadows, and footsteps echoing without anyone around are common among the bravest workers and visitors. If Puebla was already a city full of stories and mysteries, now we know that its underground holds even darker secrets. And who knows how many more are hidden, waiting to be unearthed. And that concludes our adventure for today. Now tell us, what did you think of this journey through the mysteries of Puebla? What caught your eye the most? Leave your opinion in the comments. We'd love to know. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any new content. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you on our next Bello Mundo adventure. See you there.